Hi there, I'm Catherine. I am the founder of the Danaher Method, and today I'm going to be walking you through a hip and glute release sequence using our yoga tune-up yoga balls. The reason I specify the brand there is because these come in a tote. Today we're going to be using them out of the tote, so really doesn't matter what brand you have or which ones you're using. I just happen to like this brand. You want to have a soft and somewhat squishy therapy ball, yoga ball for this. So let's go ahead and take the yoga balls out of the tote. We are going to be focused on two places today as we roll. One is going to be the quadratus laborum, big name, right? Big name, small muscle. Our QL, which is how I'm going to abbreviate it, is right about if you were to take your hand on the small of your waist, digging your thumb in, so spine is here, digging that thumb in. Our QL is a muscle that connects between the bottom rib and the top hip. It can be an area where, and we've got all our abdominal muscles, our obliques around that. It can be an area where we hold a lot of tension. And if there's tension that's somewhat misaligned on one area of the body, might be pulling your hip up, right? Or stretching it down on one side. We want to be nice and even. We're going to roll that spot. You may or may not want a block for that. That's going to be an option. The second spot and a few different places we're going to go roll is going to be all around the butt. All right, all around those butt cheeks, those glutes, that booty. Okay, so we're going to roll the whole area of the glute. We're going to come over, we're going to roll our glute medius, and then we're also going to roll our TFL a little bit. So for anyone else who did the master class of the IT band release at the wall, that muscle is going to be familiar to you. Let's go ahead and start on our backs. Laying your body down, feet together, knees wide. Yoga balls can just be by the side. So if right away this position is not comfortable, some options. Take your yoga blocks, place them under each knee. Okay, I have them on a low height. You can put them on a high height. You can put them on the highest height. Make yourself comfortable in this position. This is a check-in. Breathe. Notice where the knees are versus in orientation to the ground. Notice how the back body feels. We're in a neutral spine here. Back can be arched. Good. Now, close those knees. Take one yoga ball. We're going to place the yoga ball on that right side on that QL, right? So I'm above the hip bone. I'm towards that right side, placing that yoga ball in the center of that right quadrant of the center back. It can feel good to just pause in stillness or open the knee up out to the side. You're going to immediately feel the body here melt over. Breathe. Breath is going to be the most important tool in your kit for this. Now, if you'd like a little bit more here, so we're just in stillness. If you'd like a little bit more, go ahead and lift your hips, take a block. Coming back to that same alignment, you can place that yoga ball, return it onto that QL, and then open that hip out, right? That's going to make the motion a little bit bigger, getting a little bit more of a stretch across the hip. This may not be for you. If you're somewhere in between, you would take two yoga balls, put the body on two yoga balls. Okay, I'm going to stick with one here. Slight motion side to side, right? We're not going to have a huge range of motion here. Yoga ball is pinned into place. Good. Now let's move. If you're on that block, remove that block, shift it to the side. Yoga ball is going to shift lower. We're coming onto the top of that hip bone. So I'm going to stand up here. So we're on top of that hip bone, onto basically the sacrum, right? So if I were to make a triangle here, sacrum is here. We're still on that right side, above the hip. Knee can be open out to the side. Gentle rock. I like to think about this as I'm exploring, right? Covering some surface, and then let's find a spot that feels a little sticky, that feels like it could use a little extra love, and then stay there. If it feels good, open that knee out to the side. Now I'm on one yoga ball. If you'd like to be on two, to cover a little bit more area and to ease some of the intensity, go ahead and do so. Little rock side to side. Good. So these yoga balls, now that I've got two, these yoga balls are on the diagonal, rolling outward towards the side of the body, rocking side to side. Now, if you want to get real crazy, you can move that leg around, right? So we can open the leg a little bit out to the side, maybe take some of the bicycles. Good. So this video, this rolling sequence is going to be about 10 minutes long. Okay, you don't need a ton of time to do this, but certainly if you want more time, pause, stay where you are, and catch up with me when you're ready. All right. We're going to move on now that we've opened up towards that glute medius. We're going to come into the meaty part of the glute. All right. So one or two, I'm going to go with two yoga balls, one on top of the other, bringing that hip, that right buttocks over those yoga balls, cover some area. Think about coloring in that muscle. It's a big muscle here. So coloring that in, rocking side to side. And then similar to when we were a bit higher on the body, if you find a space, so for me right here, my sacrum is quite tight. I'm going to pause here, breathe, and just take some small movements, right? So a little rotation out of that hip joint. Good. And then when you're ready to move on, you can find another area that might feel a little sticky. And pause, breathe. So a couple techniques here. You keep rolling. I'm gonna just show on the body. So we're rolling all around that glute on the right side, okay? So it's like you're giving yourself a little butt massage, right? Less awkward because you don't have to go into the massage therapist and be like, can you just please focus on my glutes the whole time, right? So we're giving ourselves that massage here, but feel free to go slow, to take pauses, to breathe, and to take what you need. Good. Now, if this pressure is feeling good, stay here. We're going to move on in about a minute or so. So if you'd like to explore a little bit more pressure, you're on those two yoga balls. Now might be a good time to drop to one. You're not going to get as much surface area covered, but it is going to be a bit more acute. So feel free to navigate some space. I like to, when I'm on one yoga ball, come up to my TFL. So that's going to be below my hip bone. It's going to be above my greater trochanter. It's where the IT band begins. And you can even turn to lean onto one side. Oof. Feel the body weight fold over, melt over. Good. Alrighty. Coming up and over, let's revisit that check-in. Knees come together, or excuse me, feet come together, knees wide. Notice on that side that we were just rolling. Just one, like for me right now, my knee feels a lot lower to the ground than on my left side that I'm about to roll. So let's even that out. So I'm going to flip around here. Feel free to stay exactly where you're facing. We're going to start with the QL, right? So on the back body there. Taking whichever option you took on the first side. So if you used a block, use a block. I'm going to get into it the same way I began on the first side. So laying the body down onto one single yoga ball, opening that knee out, feeling that pressure, feeling that body melt over. This yoga mat has these little cutouts because I'm in studio, and so it's got a perfect little yoga ball holder. Now, if you went on the block on that first side, go ahead and lift the hips up. I like to angle the block here so that it's angled inward so that the hip doesn't, I've got some meat around my hip so it doesn't get in the way as I open the knee out to the side. So we've got a big stretch happening. If you're really feeling nice and open, you can open your arms up into a cactus. Oof, little rock side to side. Nice, feel this release. It's a great thing to do at the start of the day. It's a great thing to do at the end of the workday after sitting. It's a great thing to do before I go to bed. So like basically all times of the day, this sequence is for you. Good, breathe. When I get a little crazy, that leg can move. Ooh, that's not for me on this side, but if you wanted to, you could bend, extend. So it's a good check-in, right? If you're like, oh, I want to try something new, but then all of a sudden the muscles really tighten up, don't take that option. Just breathe, slow. Good. And then carefully, you can use your hand to close that knee. Close that knee, ease the body up and off that block if you're there. shift the block off to the side. And now we're going to come into the hips, into the glutes. So we're going to roll here at the top of the glutes. If you'd like 2 yoga balls, you can go on 2. We started with just 1 on that first side. So we're above that hip bone, leaning on down. And the idea is we're rolling along the top part of the pelvis. So if you visualize the pelvis, we're rolling along the top. If you'd like to add a second to cover a little bit more area, go ahead and roll that out. Oof. It's also kind of interesting to notice one side versus the other, right? So you may have noticed some sensitivity on the right that maybe you're not experiencing here on the left, or vice versa. So just noticing that. If you'd like a little bit more, you can open and close that knee, right? So my hips are sitting just atop those yoga balls, right and then left, right next to each other, opening out to the side. So I'm drawing that perimeter of the hip bone here. Good. And then we're going to move on. We're going to cover that glute. Okay. So just shift the yoga balls down a little bit so they're in that meatier area of the glute. And this oftentimes feels like a very nice transition because most of us have a good amount of flesh here. So we're rolling now into a nice muscly and fleshy part of the body. Good. And you're not stuck to one place. So use your hands, use your legs, use your body to adjust the yoga balls as you need. Don't, this is your time. So don't feel like you have to be stuck to one certain area. The idea is we're coloring in the glutes here. And then let's find a spot that maybe feels a little sticky where you want to spend some more time. Find a spot, find stillness. Knees open out to the side, pause, breathe. Now let's find a different spot. Roll around, find it, and then pause. Ooh, and then we'll do that one more time, rolling around here, maybe finding a spot. It's like freeze tag for myofascial release. Pause, open, and notice, feel how the hips might stretch open. Feel how the chest might stretch open. Good. And so this is where, if you've got the time, I'm going to wrap this up, but if you've got the time, press pause, enjoy a little bit more time here. If you're going to close with me, you can just put the yoga balls to the side. We'll close by putting the knees together to touch, feet together to touch, knees wide. Let's take that check-in again. Notice now the distance between the knees and the floor. Notice the stretch across the hips. Notice any tension through the forehead. Breathe in. Let it go. Exhale, close those knees together, hug knees into chest, rock side to side. Beautiful. You can gently let this bring you up into a seated position. That is our glute rolling sequence. Nice and quick. Fluffing up that booty, releasing a little tension. Thank you for joining.